Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Apex Benefits Rapid Response. For this installment, we're going to talk about the Families First Act again, some of the things that the CARES Act has done to reconcile some things in the Families First Act. Remember that's phase 2, and we're going to ask some questions around that we've been getting from our clients. This program is brought to you by Apex Benefits Group and Axiom Human Resource Solutions. And I'm joined by two great colleagues, Brooke Salazar and Andy Zelt. Brooke?
I am Apex's Associate General Counsel, and I'm also an HR consultant. And before I went to law school, I was an HR professional, so hopefully we can cut through some of the legalese.
All right. Andy?
Hello, my name is Andy Zelt, founder and CEO of Axiom Human Resource Solutions, a local community-based payroll and HR provider delivering human capital management solutions through the Kronos Workforce Ready platform. Thank you for having me.
You bet. And I'm Todd Rokita, General Counsel and Vice President of External Affairs at Apex Benefits. So let's get right into it. Since our program on the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, we got a lot of questions. We're going to get to those. But we also got some decent guidance from the Department of Labor filling in those gaps that were found in the phase 2 bill. And remember, not really a fault of the bill or the legislature. It's just when you have 535 people moving at, really for them, any group of 535 people, breakneck speed to get a major piece of legislation done, some terribly high spending amounts. And you go that fast with something this major, things are going to get missed. One of the things that didn't get missed, though, Brooke, but was called for in the phase 2 bill, the FFCRA, as we're lovingly calling it now, was the Department of Labor's requirement to put out a poster-like notice for employers and employees to use.
Right. We've been... Yeah. We've been waiting on this poster. I know HR professionals have been waiting to get their hands on it and then asking, where does it go with all of my other posters? What if I don't have room for it? So the FFCRA is very clear that it needs to be in a conspicuous place with all of your employees being able to see it. The DOL has come out with some FAQs on it, and I won't bore you here with those, but they specifically address, can I put this in a binder? And they say no. So I would encourage you, when you go out to grab this notice, to look at those FAQs as well.
Great, thanks. And Andy, I would say that this poster is also just a good roadmap. I mean, it's a confusing law. It's about emergency paid sick leave and emergency family medical leave, and there's an interrelationship between the two, 2 weeks for the one, up to another 10 weeks for the other, with the first 2 weeks unpaid under emergency FMLA. All that kind of stuff is pretty well laid out on this one sheet of paper or poster, if you will. So moving along, some other things we noticed in the CARES Act that helped with fixing the FFCRA clarifications. Section 3605 of the CARES Act talks about specifically the question that we've gotten a lot of, and that is paid leave for rehired employees. So you started laying off your employees because you didn't have the work, the virus was oncoming, very difficult time. Then the emergency paid sick leave, the bill was passed, not going in, and the FMLA bill was passed, not going into place until April 1st. Wanted to rehire these employees. Can they be covered, Brooke? Are they going to be covered by these laws, or what is their status?
Well,
and you see that
if they were laid off on or by March 1 or later and then rehired, that employee could get access to the emergency paid sick leave and the emergency family medical leave. if that employee had worked for at least 30 days prior to being laid off originally. So the intent, the spirit of this law is not to punish employees that had the misfortune of being laid off or those employers that are trying to put them back to work.
That's right. Also, another change in the FFCRA corrected by the CARES Act, the definition of COVID-19 diagnostic testing that is required to be covered by a group health plan or health insurance issuer without cost sharing has been expanded. So the CARES Act has done that, took the FFCRA definition, expanded it. Also, the payroll tax credit expansion. Under new rules from the Department of Labor, employee benefits don't have to be or shall not be calculated in the rate of pay for calculating that emergency paid sick or that emergency medical and family leave. So makes some sense because, right, Andy, the benefits are not cash that the employee would otherwise have. And if the goal of this significant, if not drastic legislation is to make sure that these employees stay employed, have cash, these employers continue to keep them on, then you want as much of that cash to be replaced that they're losing as possible. So rate of pay would not include benefits in terms of the caps or the ceiling that was in the FFCRA. Remember the $500 per day or the $200 per day and the biweekly amounts that came with it.
Excellent. Yes.
We have several questions to go through regarding FFCRA. Again, looking back at it after a week or two, seeing what the CARES Act did to improve it or clarify it at least. The first one, do I have to pay part-time people for the full 80 hours?
So no. So that part-time employee is only eligible for leave for the number of hours that employee is normally scheduled to work over that period. So if that employee is scheduled to work for 20 hours, it's 20 hours. It's not the 80. It's not the 80 hours. I know that was a big question for some folks.
Right. Yeah, the other big question I get is, does the 10 days for the emergency paid sick leave have to occur consecutively? So
I think that's a great question, and I think that's on our next slide, Andy.
Wow. There it is. So the question I get is if an employee has, daycare lined up for 2 days out of a week, can they only use 3 days, or how is that really specified if it is?
So for that emergency paid sick leave, and the emergency FML can only be used intermittently for childcare reasons. And then the employer has to agree to it. So given the nature of the virus, the lawmakers saw that if you're sick with COVID-19, there isn't going to be an intermittent. So we're going to have to use that emergency paid sick leave consecutively as a whole. However, they also saw that if there are childcare issues, that you can agree with your employee that they can use that intermittently.
That makes sense.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Question 3, can I use the 10 days for the emergency paid sick leave to cover the first 10 unpaid days of emergency FMLA?
Yes. Yes. So I will say, and this isn't to tease you, Todd, but this is some good common sense, I think, out of Washington.
I'll take it.
So the first 10 days can be that emergency paid sick leave. Now, remember, you can't force them to use PTO concurrent with that. However, when it gets to the emergency paid family leave, you can. So they can use that first paid sick leave for that first 10 days to cover that emergency FMLA blackout. And so it really does kind of coincide with that.
How about the next question? Can you ask for verification on not having childcare for emergency FMLA? Right. So we're all used to, as employers, as HR professionals, and otherwise, making sure that these employees can prove they need regular FMLA simply to take the time off. Does that change in this emergency situation?
It doesn't. And so, I mean, I would suggest to everyone to be flexible. However, you may require your employee to provide you with the appropriate documentation for emergency FMLA. And so the question you're going to ask me, maybe not you, Todd, but HR professional, is where are my emergency FMLA docs from the DOL? And so the DOL, I think, understands that they don't have the docs out yet. So if you want to take your current FML and adjust it for emergency FML, that could be a good way to do that as well. Because since there are going to be tax credits involved, right, we want to make sure that we're going to have the documentation that those employees did need that leave and did take it.
All right, that makes some sense. Andy, what are you thinking about this from your vantage point?
No, I mean, that's a big question we get about, whether the employer believes the employee. So that does make quite a bit of sense and gives our employers some guidance on that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would just provide employers to keep in mind that there are folks that have their mother watches their child, their next door neighbor has an indoor child care. So just use good sense when denying or requiring certain documentation.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. The next question we get a lot was already covered there by Todd earlier about, are employer contributions to benefit plans excluded from the regular rate of compensation?
Yeah, so based on the DOL fact sheet that's hot off the press, 56A, employers may exclude regular rate contributions that are irrevocably made by an employer to a trustee or a third person. So whether it's death, disability, retirement, illness, etc., which is a shift from what we've seen.
Okay, so it's a may provision. They don't have to, or how does that kind of work? Just a may?
It's a may provision. So it can depend. The employer can make that decision.
How about the sixth question? Is there a way to get a tax credit prior to paying employees so we do not have to be reimbursed?
Well, I don't know where the law is, because I still have in my mind Schoolhouse Rock, like somebody's walking it up the steps of the White House. And I'll spare you the singing of the song. You're both welcome at 6 o'clock on a Friday night. So not in the FFCRA. However, as we've discussed in previous rapid responses, there are quick mechanisms for receipt of funds.
I would agree with you. And just for the audience, this is March 27th. We're cutting this installment on literally an hour or two or so after the CARES Act was passed by the House of Representatives, and on its way, the president probably already signed it into law. So very much hot off the press. Next question. It looks like this might be the last one. Brooke, I'm going to let you take this one. Will this impact the employee's personal taxes on the payroll check? That is paying this emergency paid sick leave and emergency family medical leave. What's the tax effect of that to the employee?
Well, it's not designed to drive down an employee's payroll taxes. However, I do want to be careful, since that DOL 56A came out, that if their regular rate of pay calculation is different based on health insurance or other benefits, that there could be an impact as to taxability there. And so I think that's just something we're going to have to watch for.
Understood. Andy, any other questions that you're getting, even since this installment was started? We're getting them so fast and furious. I'm really pleased that we're looked at as a resource in all of this, and we are just trying our best to be responsive, digest the law not only quickly but as accurately as possible as it's being written, and getting it out to our clients. And this is also available to the general public because we're all in this together. Andy, do you want to close it out on behalf of Axiom?
I just appreciate you guys jumping on here so quickly to cover this content and help us try to digest it. And I'll have a list of top 10 questions more, I'm sure, from this new stuff for you guys on Monday.
Monday or sooner. So we're ready, able, and willing to get this done. Let's all get through this together, everybody. Sharp V recovery, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, team.